afternoon and welcome to Complex PTSD TV Live. My name's Linda, I'm your certified trauma recovery coach, and today we're going to talk about being ghosted, ghosting, and what we can do and the perspective that we can work through and adopt if we've experienced being ghosted, if we feel like we're being ghosted, or we feel like we want to ghost someone, and that's just as important as well. And also looking to what it's doing to us internally when we are ghosted and how we can better manage that so that we can continue to make our way in our day-to-day life. For those that are new here, welcome. We have the most amazing global family online. We now have our own app, which you will find in the comments after the video, and you can join us for free. We're here. We have a beautiful peer support group. I have the world's first complex PTSD academy for your effective recovery. And I just know that you'll love joining in with us. So today, as we go into talking about ghosted, we first of all need to address what is it, okay? Where did it come from? And how do we need to refocus on the meeting as well? So ghosting is the act of suddenly ceasing all communication with someone that we're dating, all right? And it happens when we no longer wish to date that person. Okay, now it began being done in the hopes that the ghostee will just get the hint and leave the person who's doing the ghosting alone. Okay, so they didn't have a very good communication process happening at all. And we need to know that ghosting isn't about suddenly finding that we've put in your resume. We put in a resume into somewhere and we never hear back from them. Often you'll find in ads, they say, if you don't hear from us, you're not successful. And I want us to have some intelligence around how we're using it as well, because if we don't, then we stand to keep re-traumatizing ourselves, believing that it's about us, whereas part of the world, how it has operated, is that if we send in a resume we don't hear back, we know that we aren't successful in at least getting an interview or talking to someone. Now, this doesn't mean that it's the right way to go about communication. Okay, it's how it's been done. Hopefully over time, companies with a lot of integrity will adopt better procedures. But for us right now, all right, for our sanity, our safety, our emotional healing and nurturing, we need to move into to develop that self-talk around, okay, they're not ghosting me, they simply don't have healthy communication procedures. All right, they don't even know who we are, let's face it, because if they did, they'd be calling us up for an interview and going, yes, we need to see you, but they don't. All right, and have compassion, some self-compassion and compassion for the companies that haven't yet got on board with, we need to have a better way of communicating. All right, ghosting isn't when we cease contact with our family due to dysfunctionality, due to toxic behaviours, and anything else that happens in the family when we have to split, okay? That is not ghosting, despite what you will see around social media at this point in time, all right? When we are coming from dysfunctional families, I can guarantee you we have tried everything that we possibly can to communicate with them, to work things out, to have those conversations. And then we reach a stage where we know that there is nothing that we can say that's going to change it. So we're not ghosting them, and maybe they're not ghosting us. It's just that there's been a break in communication. and neither one knows how to reconnect. Okay, so we want to be really, really clear about what ghosting is not, all right? Because otherwise we stand to develop a whole language around ghosting, or a whole understanding around the word ghosting that doesn't apply. All right, so we've got to be very careful for our own sake that we discern the difference between what ghosting is and what it is not. And also, when you're going through social media and someone says, oh, you're just ghosting your family because you didn't talk to them. No, I've tried and tried and tried. So we don't want to take on board, the 5-second memes on social media, because they're not the truth either. All right. So one of the things that we can do initially in how to avoid ghosting is we want to establish a really good communication with the person that we may possibly be dating, or we may possibly be going for a job interview, or we may just be connecting in a new friendship group. Okay, so we want to confirm the commitment, and we often want to agree to make sure who's responsible for what part of the commitment. So are we turning up at this time? And if neither of us can make it, do we both have each other's phone number? Can we communicate and say we're not able to make it? And we want to set these clear intentions that there is follow-up, so that neither person gets hurt or wounded, all right? And we also want to communicate that either of us have an escape. So just say, look, I really don't feel like I can make it today. I want to be able to communicate that to somebody and say, look, I'm really sorry, I don't feel up to communicating. I don't feel up to meeting up today. So when can we arrange to meet again? So we want to be the instigators, the adults, in the situation where we're making sure that there's a process of communication, and that we're also, and it may feel like you're over communicating, but don't give up, all right? It's better to be over communicating than it is to be under communicating, and then both people feel wounded at the same time, okay? Remember this, and this is really super important, to remember that we all have a right to our own needs and boundaries and the right to say no. But when we do that, we want to be able to communicate it as well, all right? So whilst we can say, I'm not responsible for that person's feelings, we also have to be willing to be responsible to continue to communicate in a situation that we're involved in. And we can't control somebody else's reaction or response, okay? But it's not going to minimize the negative impact of ghosting. So we need to be willing to understand that if somebody else isn't communicating with us, then it's not something that we can control. We can't take it on board. We can't try and fix it. We can't fix other people, and we have to give ourselves that self-talk. We also have to be aware that there's a very critical trauma response involved too that we may have, which is, oh, well, I'm being ghosted, I'm better off alone. Now, if that happens, it's important that you recognize that that is a trauma response and it's not healthy, and that one person doesn't dictate what you're going to do. You're better off working with your trauma coach or your therapist around that trauma response so that you can heal that wound than you are believing that somebody else ghosted you. Sometimes, and look, I'll say most of the time, in this day where we're at in the world right now, most people don't know how to communicate on an emotional level. I've taught my children, who are now adults, and definitely my sons who live in the same building as me will come to me and speak to me about their stuff, but they also tell me how people their age don't have the ability to communicate emotionally. So when we look at ghosting from that perspective, then we have to allow for the fact that generations still don't know how to communicate emotionally. And that in and of itself should help us go, okay, take a deep breath. Okay, if this person can't communicate emotionally, that's something that they'll have to address. Meanwhile, if I want to go and try communication again, then I need to sit down and work out how I can make sure that communication happens at the very beginning of a relationship. Also, work out what type of communicator you are. Now, when I say that, I don't know if there's types of communicators. I simply mean, are you a communicator? To what degree do you communicate? How much do you feel comfortable communicating with other people? What are your boundaries around communication? So some people feel quite comfortable being open about everything and anything. Some people feel confident just to communicate what's happening for them. I'm a communicator, and I don't necessarily talk about everything and anything in my life, but I will sit and listen and hear what you're saying. And my communication needs are that I need somebody who can actually talk and communicate with me. All right, so you might want to look at what are your needs in the context of a relationship, and how do you know, how can you recognize when you've got that in somebody else as well? All right. I found a list of things you can say instead of ghosting. All right. So this is specific for, when you meet new people, be it friendship or dating. Okay. You could say, hey, I had a nice time with you, but I just don't feel a spark. That's the dating, obviously. You can say, hey, I had a nice time with you, but I don't feel that I want to continue to see you. All right. Thanks for reaching out. I'm not interested in going out again, but appreciated our conversation. I realise I'm not ready to date. Wishing you all the best. I have a lot going on in my life right now, and no, I'm not able to prioritise a relationship. Thank you for a nice time. I don't feel a strong connection, so don't think it's right to go out again. All right, so anything around that type of thing, and you are at least communicating what's happening for you. All right, and remember, go in with a plan. When you meet someone, go in with a plan about what you want to do, how you need the structure to happen, time frames, and exit strategy, which isn't your friend ringing you and saying, are you okay? Fake emergency, because you're walking away and you'll never see them again. Be honest, be genuine, and if the person gets upset, which they most likely won't, you can simply say, hey, I know a trauma coach or a therapist that you can go and see to work through that, because their emotions are not for you to take on. You aren't that close to them, all right? They're not in your circle of the 3 closest people to you who know everything about you, and you're willing to, open up that much. These people are beyond the circle of 12 that surround you, and they don't know you, and it's not for you to take on and have deep conversations about how they're feeling. Okay, so I hope that helps with you ghosting and being ghosted. And remember, take a look at any trauma responses that you may have, and definitely talk it through with a professional, because it's vital that you get skills, structure, strategies, and education about what's happening for you internally, so that you can change things up the next time you do something different as well. Have the most beautiful day, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.